Hi, welcome to our daily encounter. Today we start First Chronicles. And First and Second Chronicles were written most likely by a guy by the name of Ezra, who was a scribe who lived in the time of the return of the exiles. After they were led away to Babylonian captivity, as we read at the end of Second Kings, after 70 years they were allowed to go back into the land and rebuild Jerusalem. Well, it is believed that these books were written at that time because of the content that is contained within these two books. Uh, for one, it starts off with the genealogy, which we will read today in our daily reading, at least part of it. And this would be important for the exiles coming back so that they could use these to apportion their inheritances to each of the families coming back. It would also be important for the reestablishment of worship there in Jerusalem. Also, you'll notice that it follows the dynasty of David. It starts with the death of Saul when we get into the actual narrative part of Chronicles. It starts with the death of Saul and begins with the kingship of David and follows the kings of Judah all the way to the time when they are deported to Babylon. And so this would give the exiles a history of not just the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, but just focused on just the southern kingdom, which would have been most pertinent to them. Well, as we get into these first two chapters, we note that a lot of it is just names. This person lived, he had a son, so on and so forth. Just genealogies. But as we sit back and we meditate and think about these people and their lives, what I came away with was kind of the same feeling I get when I go to a graveyard. That may sound strange, but I actually like going to graveyards. I like going and looking at the headstones. I like maybe imagining what their lives must have been like, seeing the span of life that they lived, and it really is beneficial and gives a person a lot of introspection and kind of puts your own life into perspective. Um, and I think that reading this genealogy kind of has that same effect. Now we can read these genealogies and think, each of these people had their own story. Each of them had their own contribution to human history. And we can kind of think about it and wonder, what were their lives like? We can also, as we read these genealogies, think about the God that transcends all of these lives. The God that was there with Adam, as noted in First Chronicles chapter 1 and verse 1. He was there with Adam all the way up to the present day in your life and in my life. And God transcends our lives. Sometimes we might get so focused on ourselves and focused on our lives and forget that our lives are just like little pieces of the puzzle of God's overall plan for mankind. And this ought to encourage us to work on our story. We've each been given, in a sense, blank pages to write our story on. And it's helpful to think of it that way because we can begin to think, the choices that I make and the decisions that I make really determine what my story is going to be like. And is my story going to be filled with or will my story be a story much like the kings that had turned their hearts to the Lord and followed the Lord with all their heart? Or will my life be like those who have fallen away and walk away from the Lord and rebel against the Lord? What do you want your story to be like? And I have to ask, what do I want my story to be like? As we all contribute to human history and mankind's own story. So these are just some thoughts to kind of think about as we read these genealogies. Sometimes we might think of these as kind of being cumbersome to read all these different names, some of the names difficult to read, but I think if we put it all into perspective, maybe it'll help us to actually look at these genealogies as a means and a method to really have a lot of perspective for our own lives. So with that, I want to thank you guys for listening in today. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.